implementing Price Clicker on your website will bring you more customers that otherwise would not have called, but that would have liked the price that they saw had they been able to learn that price without actually calling you.
Do you know what's stopping you from doing that one thing you've always wanted to do? You don't, because it doesn't exist. This is Josh Bauer, and no, it really doesn't exist.
I am going to play for you a segment that I recently recorded and included on the website of Price Clicker. Now, Price Clicker, I am going to explain what it is in the actual segment that I'm going to include further, but I'll just give a brief description. Price Clicker is essentially a software as a service website that allows service-based businesses to include forms on their website that automatically generate quotes on the spot. And this is different from a contact form where you have to, where the prospect has to basically email the service provider to get a quote later, get a manual quote. This is different. It's automatically generated based on predefined rules. So that's what this is. And I recently recorded this segment. I want to play it for you on this podcast so that the scope and purpose of Price Clicker becomes clear. My name is Josh. I'm the founder of PriceClicker.net. I am a full-time over-the-road tractor-trailer driver and working on becoming a helicopter pilot next year. So right now, I got this job last year, but before this, I had a job that paid $15 an hour, and it wasn't as fun. All right, well, let me put it this way. The job was fun, but the money wasn't. So what did I do? I ended up shoveling snow that winter for all my neighbors. I hand-delivered letter to every single house in my neighborhood. I hand-delivered letters. And I had about 15 clients. I would shovel snow for them by hand. I would shovel out their driveways for $20 a driveway. And that kept me alive for the winter. And what I realized was the pricing of the services I provided, I could have gotten more clients if I had been more transparent about the pricing, because the pricing was so, like, $20 a driveway is nothing. A lot of people will charge $50 up to $100 to plow out your driveway. They don't even use a shovel, and it looks like a mess when they're done. And here I am, I'm doing a good job with a shovel. I'm walking to their house, so they don't have to worry about me being unreliable or anything, because I live in the neighborhood. I'm only charging $20. Yeah, I only get, maybe 5% conversion rate on all the letters I hand deliver. And it's like, okay, I'm walking past some of these houses and their driveway's not shoveled out, or they're doing it themselves. I'm like, I don't even, sometimes I would approach them and be like, hey, I'll do that for $20. And they're like, oh, really? It's like, but the problem was I should have been upfront about that pricing, right? If everybody knew that it was $20 up front. But here's the thing, I would do some add-ons, like $5 extra for a car or whatever, or if they had a huge driveway, I would add a little bit extra onto it. So that's why I didn't want to put $20 in a letter, because I didn't want someone with like a mansion coming back and being like, yeah, shovel this, half an acre large driveway for $20. So I didn't. That's why I didn't want to put it in the letter, right? But for the 90% of people, the pricing was very, very low. So if only there was a way for me to have like a way for them to just put in a quote. Obviously they could call me, but here's the problem. If you're not upfront and transparent about your pricing, most people feel like when you say, okay, call me for a quote, what do they think? They think that they're going to get on the phone with you and you're going to, sales talk them into signing up for some ridiculously high price for shoveling their driveway. Nobody wants to be sold on, overpriced services. And so that's why people don't call for a quote. When you say, okay, call for a quote or call for details on pricing, it's like, okay, most people aren't going to call you. Some people will, okay? And, some people are able and comfortable being confrontational and be like, no, that's too much. I'm not interested, and hang up the phone. Some people honestly they don't like being confrontational. They're not even going to do that. They're not going to bother. They're just not going to bother calling, because they're just going to assume, okay, if the pricing was that low, they would put it, up front. But as a business owner, right, you and I know that, we might have low pricing, but we're still not always going to put it up front, because there might be caveats that raise the price slightly person to person. But for the majority of people, if you have low prices and you're not transparent about that up front, you're losing business, because there's people that if they knew your prices were so low, they would definitely sign up for your service. And this is what Price Clicker does. Price Clicker is a gadget, a widget that you can embed in your current website that basically just allows your prospective customer to fill out a couple key details about what type of service they're looking for from you. Maybe this is a landscaping business you have. Maybe this is a roofing business. Just some quantity, because a lot of times as business owners, you need a little bit of information in order to give a proper quote. But if the only way you can give that information is over the phone, there are going to be people who could have been your customers that are not going to call you, because they don't want to be like steamrolled by a salesman, right? And they just assume that's what you're going to do. And this is, it's the mental gap between the consumer and the producer. The producer is not putting their pricing out front because they have legitimately good reasons. The consumer assumes if your pricing isn't up front, it's because you have really high pricing, right? And I'm saying this as a consumer too. I mean, this is how I think. So the priceclicker.net is a way for you as a business to provide transparent and a quick, immediate quote to consumers, to customers, prospective customers, without having them call you. They're more likely to use it. And if they like the number they see, which obviously you providing obviously you got to get paid for what you do, right? But providing fair quotes for the services you provide is necessary for this to actually improve your business. If your quotes are ridiculous, then maybe this won't be good for you, because then they would have been calling you, and then you can try to I don't know, manipulate them with your sales tactics or whatever and get them to sign up. But otherwise, like if you have moderately low prices on your services, but you're not upfront on your website or in your advertising of what those prices are, and you make people call for a quote, implementing Price Clicker on your website will bring you more customers that otherwise would not have called, but that would have liked the price that they saw had they been able to learn that price without actually calling you. Again, as business owners, we can't always provide that price up front without having a little bit of information. That's what this form does. They provide that little bit of information that you need to give an accurate quote right through your website. Automatically, it spits back the quote based on predefined rules that you set as to how much you'll need to charge. Let's say you do like a roof, like per square foot. Maybe they put in the square footage of the roof. Or let's say you do landscaping. They say, okay, I live in this area. Maybe I live at this address. And so it automatically calculates how many miles away that is from you, right? So you now know mileage cost, okay? That factors into the decision. Okay, let's say they put in how large their yard is. Let's say they put in, do they want you to trim hedges? Do they want you to do weed whacking? Do they want you to gather up all the leaves at the end? Like all the extra services. This is stuff that we would normally think can just be done over the phone, and it can be, but the problem is there are people out there that are not just conflict adverse, but they just honestly just introverts. They just don't like talking to people. But they'll go with obviously you have to talk with someone at some point if you're gonna go get a landscaper, but they prefer a minimal amount of interaction in order to get the job done. Human interaction. Some people are just introverts, and for some people like you and I, that might be hard to understand. But I've just seen it. I've seen it firsthand. There are people that just they don't want to have to call somebody in order to learn what something is going to cost, but they're still willing to pay for it if it's a decent price, right? And so that's that's what this does. This will bring you more customers. The customers that already would have been interested in your pricing, they don't know what it is because it's not advertised. Yeah, and like I said, the only way this works for you is if you have pricing on your services that's actually decent. Otherwise, I would say don't bother. But that's why I made this. And I don't know. Right now, I don't provide any service-based businesses. All my businesses are product-based. I have lots of products that I sell. So I won't be using this personally until I do eventually. Well, actually, then again, this itself, I suppose, is a service-based business. But other than this, I personally won't be using this because I don't have any service-based businesses to use this on. But if I had a service-based business, I would definitely be using this, and I would recommend anybody who does. I mean, this works for bigger, higher ticket businesses too. Although typically B2B businesses, you don't have as many introverts who aren't willing to, aren't as willing to pick up the phone. So this isn't as much of a pain point in those types of businesses. This is really more of a B2C. Like if you own a landscaping company or something, but there's definitely good use cases for this also in B2B. So I believe this will help convert those customers that otherwise just would have never picked up the phone. So my name is Josh Bauer. Okay, I'm the one who made this, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have about the product. Please contact me if you have any questions.